Hey there, friends. Today I have a story called The Big Orange Splot. And it's about a man who uses a little creativity to make his house look cool and different. Some people are not too happy about that. The Big Orange Splot by Manus, Pinkwater. Mr. Plumbean lived on a street where all the houses were the same. He liked it that way. So did everyone else on Mr. Plumbean's street. This is a neat street, they would say. Then one day, so you see all the houses exactly the same. Then one day, a seagull flew over Mr. Plumbean's house. He was carrying a can of bright orange paint. No one knows why. And he dropped the can, no one knows why, right over Mr. Plumbean's house. Oh, what do you think's gonna happen? It made a big orange splot on Mr. Plumbean's house. Oh, too bad, everybody said. Mr. Plumbean will have to paint his house again. I suppose I will, said Mr. Plumbean. But he didn't paint his house right away. He looked at the big orange splot for a long time. Then he went about his business. The neighbors got tired of seeing that big orange splot. Someone said, "Mr. Plumbean, we wish you'd get around to painting your house." "Okay," said Mr. Plumbean. He got some blue paint and some white paint, and that night he got busy. He painted at night because it was cooler. When the paint was gone, the roof was blue, the walls were white, and the big orange splot was still there. Then he got some more paint. He got red paint, yellow paint, green paint, and purple paint. I don't think that's what his neighbors were thinking he would do. In the morning, the other people on the street came out of their houses. Their houses were all the same, but Mr. Plumbean's house was like a rainbow. It was like a jungle. It was like an explosion. There was the big orange splot, and there were little orange splots. There were stripes. These are kind of swoosh. Here's some stripes. There were pictures of elephants and lions and pretty girls and steam shovels. Look at all that. I really like the lion. He's like, "Rawr." And the elephants. The people said Plumbean has popped his cork, flipped his wig, blown his stack, and dropped his stopper. They went away muttering. That day, Mr. Plumbean bought carpenter's tools. That night, he built a tower on top of his roof, and he painted a clock on the tower. He's going all out. The next day, the people said, Plumbean has gushed his mush, lost his marbles, and slipped his hawser. They decided they would pretend not to notice. It's kind of hard to pretend not to notice that. That very night, Mr. Plumbean got a truck full of green things. He planted palm trees, baobabs, thorn bushes, onions, and frangipani. In the morning, he bought a hammock and an alligator. When the other people came out of houses, they saw Mr. Plumbean swinging in a hammock between two palm trees. They saw an alligator lying in the grass. Mr. Plumbean was drinking lemonade. Check out this picture. See the palm trees? You see Mr. Plumbean in his hammock and an alligator on his lawn. Plumbean has gone too far. This used to be a neat street. Plumbean, what have you done to your house? The people shouted. My house is me and I am it. My house is where I like to be, and it looks like all my dreams, Mr. Plumbean said. The people went away. They asked the man who lived next door to Mr. Plumbean to go and have a talk with him. Tell him that we all liked it here before he changed his house. Tell him that his house has to be the same as ours so we can have a neat street. People were not happy, but Mr. Plumbean, he is enjoying it. He is enjoying his individuality. So like he's choosing his own way of doing things. The man went to see Mr. Plumbean that evening. They sat under the palm trees drinking lemonade and talking all night long. Do you see the alligators sleeping? And here's Mr. Plumbean and his neighbor, and they're chatting over some lemonade, having a nice conversation. Early in the morning, the man went out to get lumber and rope and nails and paint. What? This is not what the neighbors had in mind when they had him go talk. When the people came out of their houses, they saw a red and yellow ship next door to the house of Mr. Plumbean. So that's where the neighbor lives. And instead of getting Mr. Plumbean to make his house look like all the others, Mr. Plumbean convinced him to make his house look its own way. "What have you done to your house?" they shouted at the man. "My house is me and I am it. My house is where I like to be and it looks like all my dreams," said the man who had always loved ships. "He's just like Plumbean," the people said. "He's got bees in his bonnet, bats in his belfry, and knots in his noodle." Then one by one, they went to see Mr. Plumbean late at night. They would sit under the palm trees and drink lemonade and talk about their dreams. And whenever anybody visited Mr. Plumbean's house, the very next day, that person would set about changing his own house to fix his dreams. Whoa. Check this out. So here's the ship. This person made their house look like a hot air balloon. This person made their house look like the Taj Mahal. This person, it looks like the edge of a castle. Oh, yep, castle, even a moat. This is like an ancient monument in Greece. Check that out. You can see the whole street of them together. Whenever a stranger came to the street of Mr. Plumbean and his neighbors, the stranger would say, "This is not a neat street." Then all the people would say, "Our street is us and we are it. Our street is where we like to be and it looks like all our dreams." So this story, we're not going to really paint our houses crazy, but this is all about how we are all different and we all have different imaginations and different things that we think about and different things that we love, and that is all a good thing. Okay? I'll see you guys tomorrow. Go outside and enjoy this beautiful, beautiful weather. Bye.